Hey guys, should you do hair extensions? Are hair extensions damaging? Well, I'm driving to work. Look, I got trash cans in the background. I live in the country. I'm getting ready to get, the garbage man doesn't come way out here, so I have to bring my trash to the end of the driveway. I think I'll just bring all the way to work today. Anyway, you didn't get on here to hear about that. I have been doing hair extensions for 29 years, travel the country, Mandeville, Louisiana, Slidell, Louisiana, no, near New Orleans, for you guys that don't know where Slidell, Mandeville, Covington is. And when I say winter, we're down to 52 degrees. I'm actually getting a little warm. I dressed a little too warm. I might put the air conditioner on in this truck. So I've been getting a lot of questions about hair extensions being damaging, and I've done, God, probably thousands, haven't counted, but at least hundreds of heads of extensions. And a big handful of those hair extension clients were coming to me for 15 and 20 years that never had any damage before I stepped out from behind the chair. Now, why is that? Well, first of all, when I learned, there was no YouTube, there was no internet to learn on, so that everybody could get a glimpse of extensions and then just give it a try. Maybe you shouldn't be doing hair extensions. Maybe you don't know how to do them right. Maybe those one or two clients that got damaged was enough to show you that you need proper training, or you shouldn't do it at all. And that's where my stance is. Yes, hair extensions can be very good for the hair. I've helped people grow their hair out, get more hair, get thicker hair, avoid damage and breakage, because hair extensions can protect your hair if done right. Man, is that a bold statement, huh? People don't believe that that can happen. But if you think about it like this, say a person is supposed to have 100,000 hairs on their head, but they're a little thin, so they have 70 or 80,000, and you fill in that 10, 20,000 strands of hair around the hairs they already have, then the extension hair, which is going to be removed and at some point thrown away or whatever, it's purchased hair, it becomes almost like a barrier, almost like a protection. And I'm not saying it's 100% like a bulletproof vest around the outside, but it is taking some of the heat, some of the abuse, some of the wear and tear friction, some of the blow dry heat, some of the sun wear and tear, because most of the extensions are on the top for the most part. Sure, your hair on top is covering, so that little bit of hair on top is catching the sun still, but the extensions are absorbing the heat from the flat iron, the heat from the blow dryer, and so many other just friction and wear and tear tools that it actually can protect your hair. But let's go into where damage actually happens with extensions. It usually starts, now, I'm not even going to blame a company. I'm going to blame us, hairdressers, for the most. Sorry, my phone rang and I deleted or declined the call. But you can buy a cheap set of extensions and still not damage hair. The client won't have as good of an experience. They won't be able to wear them as long. They won't like them as much. You know, they might tangle, the color might fade. They might have to get them out sooner. But the real challenge is there's a bunch of different kinds of extensions. So what kind are we talking about? Let's just talk about the two big ones right now. Oh my goodness, there's really kind of three big ones, right? We've got keratin bonded, we've got weft, and we got tape. So let's take each one of them for just a minute. Let's do the keratin bonded, since it's been around a little longer than this. You know, it's funny because taping's been, weft's been around a lot longer, but they went away for a while and they just came back. So I'm kind of, I'm a little sniffly now that we got this cold weather coming in. But let's take keratin bonded, since it's been the most popular for a while until this weft just popped up on the scene. The keratin bonded extensions comes in little groupings, just like an I-tip. So we could say keratin bonded or I-tip, or what some of you guys are calling cold fusion, even though that's not really cold fusion. There's no heat, so I guess it could be considered cold fusion. The that little bond is one grouping of hair. Let's just call it, it's about 100 strands of hair. Let's call it 100 strands of hair. Most stylists connect that 100 strands of hair to 50, 60, 70 strands of hair. That's where the damage starts. So when you connect 100 to 70, you're not supporting the weight correctly. You need at least 100, if not a little bit more, because the keratin or the polyester or the plastic or whatever's creating that seal, whether it be the I-tip, which is a rounded, whatever you would call it, plastic, polyester, whatever it is, plus you add a ring, on there, or a bead is more weight. You need more than the exact amount or ratio of hairs, 100 to support 100. But worse than that, think about this. You know how a girl will put a high ponytail on her head like to go work out and it kind of pops out from her head, or they wear a low ponytail like they're going to a wedding, a little classier than that workout ponytail. Well, think about those two, whether you're doing I-tip or keratin bond. Which one should it look like? Which of those ponytails should each little bond look like? Sure, some of you guys got it right and some of you guys got it wrong. The way it should look is like that low classy ponytail, and that's really difficult to do. But what happens is stylists pull that little section towards them like this, up in the air, and slide that bead on, heat that keratin bond up, roll it, fold it flat, whatever you do, and then it stays up like that and the hair pops out from it. Kind of looks like a horse's tail when the horse is going to the bathroom, which is not a good thing. That it's popped up like that and it's kind of got this little curve to it. And so what that's doing is gonna now pull towards the ground. The top hairs in that section are gonna be pulled, the bottom hairs in that section are getting pushed in. It's just not natural flow, it's not natural fall, it's not naturally the way the hair was. So it feels like when you take these extensions out, or after a few days, it feels good. It feels like, oh God, they took them out. And extensions should not be painful right at first. So when you have that low one in, that low ponytail, and you take it out, you don't even feel a difference. You barely pulled the hair off its axis by kind of pulling it together a little bit. Same thing with the extension. And that's why the age-old argument about extensions, about my client likes them tighter. Your clients like them tighter because they know no better. Because you or somebody else has been doing them wrong for so long, the clients get used to feeling them tight. They don't know any better. They think tighter is better. They think they're going to last longer. But what really happens is when you put them too tight, or they're feeling any pain, or they get little red bumps and itchiness, that's causing damage. If you put them in just a little bit away from the scalp, which you almost have to be able to put a tool behind the extension, you can't put it right against the head. But if you put a tool behind the extension, it's got to get away from the scalp a little so you have room to do that. But what happens is you stylists want to put that bond so close to the head that you're forced to pick it up. See, that tool's trying to fit in right here? So you're forced to pick it up so you can put the tool closer to the head. You've got to get the tool, whatever tool you're using, a little further from the head so you can go closer to the head with the bond, have everything in natural fall, and none of those hairs are kind of looped up or not supporting the weight of the bond. That's number one. Support the bond correctly. Have enough hair in each section to support the weight of the hair. So that's two. That's the two major factors. So if you get those right, it doesn't matter what brand you're using necessarily. The next step is how well does that hair perform? How many times can you use it? Does the color fade? Is there cuticle still on the hair? Does it tangle? Those are the kind of things that come next. Technique is first. Of course, marketing and knowing how to do a consultation so you can actually sell them, and then hopefully selling them for more than you're paying for the hair so you can make some money. All of that's some fun subjects to talk about. But if you could do the technique correctly to start with, we talked about keratin bonds. Let's talk about the one that's probably the most popular in the country right now, which is tape-ins. And I met a few girls this weekend. I was teaching a hair replacement class, and a few girls said, well, I do tape-ins because they're so fast and easy and they're the least damaging for the hair. And I thought, why do people say that? There is so much more damage with these tape-in extensions. I'm not saying you should never use them. We use them. We use all these techniques in our salon. It's more about doing them right. So again, it's harder to judge how much hair is in a tape-in extension, but just group that little hair in your hand as a little teeny tiny ponytail, and then when you part off your little section you think you're going to use to put a tape-in in, why don't you hold that in a little ponytail and just kind of feel the two and see if they're about the same. Because again, that's where the challenge is. The first problem that happens is stylists put too thin of a section, and they sell them at Sally's and all these other beauty supply businesses across the country. So the customers are buying tape-ins themselves and popping them in themselves. So I'm kind of surprised that hairdressers still put tape-ins in, because to me, a tape-in is like a cap highlight. We quit doing cap highlights years ago because the drugstores were selling the caps and the needles, and they can do them themselves at home. So why do the cop out of the fast, easy technique that is not necessarily better for the hair But you can do, I still do a cap highlight, believe it or not, many more foils. Now, I did step out from behind the chair a few years ago, but when I was in the salon, I would still do a cap highlight sometimes because there is still a time and place for it. And so with a tape-in extension, there's still a time and place for that and a weft. But with the tape-in, you need to take a little thicker section to support the weight better. And I would never put a tape-in extension on a fine, thin-haired client because fine, thin hair can't support the weight of that big section. Because in that section, let's say it's like this, it's all of this. So if that little bit breaks out on the side a little bit, the weight starts to break the rest of it. And so then you end up losing or damaging a larger section than if you have a smaller keratin or I-tip type of extension. If you mess up one or two out of the 200 or 300 or 150 you put on the head, you've got smaller mess ups, smaller mistakes. And so, I can't even talk this morning. You have smaller mistakes. So that's one of the reasons why I lean away from a tape-in, which brings me to wefts. And if I do a weft, I like to put two 12-inch rows all the way around the head. And then yes, if the end comes out, it can be tragic. So it can start pulling out all the way around, and doctors have even given it a name for us. They call it traction alopecia, which means they lost their hair, and every other alopecia that doctors have no idea why. They call it possibly autoimmune deficiency, maybe a vitamin deficiency, maybe stress. They really don't know. But leave it to us hairdressers, stylists, barbers, whoever put the extensions in. They say, oh, that's traction, which just means pulling, right? And so they know, we should be so proud of ourselves as hairdressers. We gave the doctors one of those alopecias that they can actually name, traction alopecia, and they know exactly how it happens, and they can blame a specific stylist. Now, the way to get away from that, again, is to have enough support. It all comes down to, can the client's hair support what you're putting in? That's the start of it. And I did wefts for 6 or 7 years, God, maybe 10 before I started doing a keratin bonded extension. And sure, in the beginning, I damaged some heads. I caused some traction alopecia. I screwed a bunch up. So at the same time, I'm telling you, just because you might have damaged a few heads of hair, don't let that stop you from getting better. I've always said, if it's worth doing wrong till you get it right. I don't want to do it wrong, and I should have practiced more on a mannequin head, and so should you. But then you think you got it, you go to, it's just like haircuts. Haven't we all messed up a haircut or two? Yes, of course we have. So with the weft, I think the thing that drives me the most crazy about these waterfall beaded rows and natural beaded rows, there's nothing natural about it, is that those anchor points are so far apart. It would probably be okay if they put more anchor points in, and of course, I'm not loving the quality of hair they're using, but forget about that, because I don't think that a specific brand is the #1 problem in our industry of causing damage for hair. It's technique still. And so with the most popular weft system out there, again, it falls into laziness. Laziness, speed, greed, hairdressers trying to get it done fast and easy and make a lot of money for very little work. Guys, I'm all for making a whole lot of money. But if you don't look out for the client first, they don't come back and you don't make money again. So then you have to be in a big city where you can just keep screwing people. And I'm not. I'm in a small town, and I always wanted to keep those few customers I had happy so more would come. And then they started flying in from other states. I made them so happy. You can have that too. So with the weft, man, I saw it coming back a few months ago, and I was like, man, I would really like to not do this weft. I did wefts already, been there, done that. Then I'm looking and I'm like, oh, they're using beads to put it in. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea, because, you know, for a long time it was done with little cornrow braids, and then so many white stylists could not do the cornrow braids, so they started doing these like strings in there and knotting it tight together. Of course, they said it was because it was smaller and more invisible. It's mostly because they didn't have the dexterity to do the cornrow braid. Whichever, either way, you do some sort of knotting, braiding, something along the scalp so that you can then sew the weft to it. Well, then when the beads came in, I saw the beads being used in a way where they would string through the bead with some hair, and then the beads would be this far apart or further, but the string would be between them, so that string would waterfall. That's where the word waterfall comes from. not a good thing. Sounds beautiful. I love waterfalls and I love natural. So natural beaded rose sounds really cool too. But the waterfall came from the sagging string. Call it sagging beaded rose. I don't think they'd be as popular. The name is everything. I get it. So with the baggy row there, the strings hang in between it, so then they lay the weft on there, sew the weft to the bead and the hair, but they also sew it to that sagging string in between. And that sag is where I think the damage starts. It pulls on the beads on the side. So sure, it can work. Put 2 or 3 more beads in the middle there. Maybe don't even add the string. That's what I started to experiment with. I said, take the string out, put more beads and sew to it. Of course, it takes more time. I worked with a guy in another country who invented a few different extension techniques, and he said, I've got something for you. And that's one of the extension techniques we're doing right now. It's a beaded row where there's these pockets in the weft. And that's really cool because you have pockets already in there and you can put beads as close together as you want, avoid the strings and the sag and the space in between. But I didn't really want to go into that today. I just wanted to go into, do extensions have to be damaging? Not at all. Not at all. But should you be doing extensions? If I deal with percentages and the number of people who watch my channel compared to the amount of people who buy from me, I'm going to say no. You probably should not be doing extensions. Now, the few that will actually watch this, maybe you should be because you care enough. But most hairdressers should not be doing extensions because they're not getting trained properly. And that's a fact. I hope more customers get to see this and see that they shouldn't be getting extensions without quizzing that stylist first. How did you learn? Where did you learn? You wouldn't buy a house without a home inspection. You wouldn't buy a car without really checking it out first or letting your mechanic see it. Some of you guys are saying, oh crap, I did buy a car without, I have to. And we shouldn't have, and then we dealt with the problems and think we'll never do that again. So with extensions, so many people just go to a hairdresser who says, I watched a YouTube video or I saw something, I think I know how to do it. So you have to know that your hairdresser has the training or the experience. Why not ask for references? Like a job interview. Interview that stylist. Have you done extensions before? Can I see one of your clients? Do you have before and after pictures of your work? Not that beautiful curled hair. No, I don't want to see styled hair. Yes, I do want to see that also because I want to make sure they can cut it and style it, of course. But make sure you see a before and after. Make sure it's their client, not somebody else's. But you want to see a close-up picture of the actual bonds. Do you see any little red spots on the head? Because I see people's work on the internet, YouTube, Facebook, all the time. And I look in close and I'm like, God, look at those little red dots on that girl's head. She is in pain. She doesn't even know that she's not supposed to be hurting. So if you're having damage, there are training courses out there. I've actually got, man, I don't even know how to find it. Maybe I can link it in here or something or put it in the comments way down below. It's a new website or an app, and it's probably not new. It's new to me, called Teachable. And I used it to put some of my training on there for people who want to learn a little bit more. So comment down below if you're interested, if you want to take a class or something. I've got some online classes to help people out in all of those techniques I just mentioned. But I'm not the only one out there teaching and training. There's so many. Just get taught correctly. Same thing for everything else. Foil highlights, hair replacement, all the really difficult, tedious services, artificial nails. You need to learn how to do it right. Give those customers what they deserve, what they're paying for. I am done ranting for the day. I really enjoy this talking to you. If you guys comment down at the bottom, it really helps me understand if I'm targeting correctly and helping you out. And do all that other stuff, will you? Will you like, subscribe, hit the little bell? I'll do it for the people I like. If you got anything out of this, please do so. Talk to you later.